They didn't ghost you because they were confused. They didn't vanish because they needed space. They disappeared because silence is their weapon, and you were the target. Let me say that again. The silence wasn't an accident. It was a sentence, a punishment, a calculated move designed to make you feel exactly what you're feeling right now. Small, confused, and desperate for answers that will never come. If you've been replaying your last conversation, searching for what you did wrong, wondering if you said too much or cared too little, if you apologized too many times or not enough, stop. Because this was never about you misstepping. This was about them choosing cruelty over clarity. And that choice, that tells you everything you need to know about who they are and what they're capable of. If this feels like I just reached into your chest and named the wound you've been hiding from everyone else, hit that subscribe button right now and tell me in the comments, what's the hardest part about letting go of someone who uses silence as a weapon? I read every single comment, and your story might be the exact words someone else needs to hear today to finally walk away. Now let's get into what really happened here. Because you need to understand this at a level deeper than hurt. You need to understand it at the level of truth. Disappearing without explanation isn't confusion, it's control. It's the silent treatment dressed up as needing time or processing emotions, or whatever excuse they've used before to justify their cruelty. And psychologist John Bowlby, who dedicated his life to studying attachment and how emotional wounds are formed, understood this with painful clarity. When someone withdraws affection as punishment, they're not protecting themselves. They're destabilizing you. They're teaching you that your presence is conditional, that your worth depends on their approval, that love is something that can be taken away the second you stop performing to their standards. And that's the trap, isn't it? You start performing. You apologize for things you didn't even do. You reach out again, softer this time, quieter, smaller. You edit your words before you send them. You second-guess your feelings. You shrink yourself down to nothing, hoping that maybe, just maybe, when if you're easy enough, forgiving enough, understanding enough, convenient enough, they'll come back, they'll choose you, they'll prove that you matter. But here's the truth that's going to sting before it sets you free. Someone who punishes you with silence doesn't want resolution. They want surrender. This isn't about giving you space. Space is communicated. Space is, I need a few days to process this, and I'll reach out when I'm ready. Space is respectful. Space includes you. Silence? Silence is, I'm going to make you suffer until you learn your place. It's emotional abandonment designed to make you panic, to make you chase, to make you so afraid of losing them that you'll accept anything, any crumb, any excuse, any half-truth, just to end the torment of not knowing. It's rejection wrapped in ambiguity, so you blame yourself instead of them. It's a power play disguised as self-care. And if they've done this before, if this is a pattern, if you've been through this cycle more than once, then you already know what I'm about to say, even if you've been avoiding it. This isn't love. This is control. And the person wielding it? They learned a long time ago that silence is safer than honesty, that disappearing is easier than being vulnerable. That punishing you is simpler than confronting their own fear of intimacy, their own terror of being truly seen, their own wounds that they've never had the courage to face. Let's talk about what's really happening beneath the surface, because understanding the psychology doesn't excuse the behavior, but it does help you stop taking it personally. People who use silence as punishment often come from one of two places. Either they grew up in environments where love was withdrawn as discipline, where affection was currency and misbehavior meant isolation, where their parents gave them the cold shoulder instead of communication, or they've become so terrified of conflict, so allergic to discomfort, that they'd rather vanish than face a difficult conversation. In attachment terms, these are often avoidant personalities, people who equate closeness with suffocation, who feel trapped the moment you need something from them, who disappear not because you did something unforgivable, but because you got too close, because you made them feel something, because intimacy feels like imprisonment to someone who has never learned to be safe inside connection. And here's where it gets especially cruel. They don't tell you that. They don't say, I'm overwhelmed by how much I feel for you. and I don't know how to handle it. They don't say, I'm scared of getting hurt, so I'm hurting you first. They just leave. And in that absence, you spiral. You wonder, you analyze, you blame yourself, and that's exactly what they want, consciously or not. Because as long as you're focused on what you did wrong, they never have to face what they're doing. As long as you're obsessing over how to fix things, they get to avoid the reality that they're the one breaking everything. Narcissists do this too. Emotional abusers. People who need to feel powerful. The silent treatment is one of the oldest, most effective tools in the manipulation playbook. It destabilizes you. It puts them in control. It makes you chase. And the more you chase, the more they retreat, and the more you convince yourself that you're the problem, that you're too needy, too emotional, too much. But you're not too much. You're just in a relationship with someone who is offering too little. You're not the problem. You never were. The problem is that you're trying to have an adult relationship with someone who is fundamentally, emotionally unavailable. Someone who would rather hurt you than be honest with you. Someone who equates vulnerability with weakness and intimacy with danger. Someone who has decided that their comfort is worth your confusion, and no amount of patience, understanding, unconditional love, or perfect behavior is going to fix that, because they don't see it as broken, they see it as protection. So what do you do when someone disappears to punish you? You stop interpreting silence as a question that needs answering. You stop treating their absence like a riddle you need to solve. You stop giving them the benefit of the doubt they haven't earned and wouldn't extend to you. Because their silence isn't a mystery. It's not confusion. It's not them figuring things out. It's a statement. And the statement is this: I am not emotionally equipped to meet you where you are. I would rather make you suffer than admit that. That's it. That's the whole message. There's no hidden depth. There's no secret meaning. There's no test you need to pass. And once you accept that, once you stop making excuses for them, stop rewriting their cruelty as confusion, stop giving them credit for emotional complexity they simply don't possess, you can finally do the one thing that will set you free. You can walk away, not out of anger, though anger is valid, not out of revenge, though you'd be justified, but out of dignity, out of self-respect, out of the bone-deep understanding that you deserve someone who doesn't make you beg for basic communication. Because here's what Nathaniel Branden, one of the greatest voices on self-esteem and healthy relationships, understood. Self-respect isn't something you earn by being chosen by someone else. It's something you protect by refusing to stay where you're disrespected. And staying in a dynamic where someone punishes you with silence, where your emotional safety is held hostage to their moods, where your worth is determined by whether or not they decide to grace you with their presence. That's not love. That's not even friendship. That's you accepting crumbs and calling it a feast. That's you normalizing abuse and calling it complexity. You deserve someone who doesn't disappear when things get hard. Someone who doesn't punish you for having needs. Someone who doesn't use silence to manipulate, control, or teach you a lesson. Someone who sees conflict as an opportunity to understand you better, not as a threat to avoid. And the only way you'll ever find that person is by refusing to tolerate the one who does the opposite. So here's your new script. This is what you say to yourself every time you feel tempted to reach out, to apologize one more time, to try one more approach. If they ghost you, you don't chase. If they disappear, you don't wait. If they punish you with silence, you let the silence be the answer. You let it be the period at the end of a sentence you didn't want to end but needed to. Because people who genuinely love you don't make you guess. They don't weaponize withdrawal. They don't teach you to fear their absence. They don't train you to walk on eggshells just to keep them around. And I know it hurts. I know it feels like if you could just say the right thing or be the right way, or give them one more chance, maybe this time it would be different. Maybe this time they'd stay. Maybe this time they'd choose you. But they won't. Because this isn't about you finally getting it right. This is about someone who has decided, whether consciously or unconsciously, that cruelty is easier than honesty, that control is safer than connection, that punishing you is simpler than doing the terrifying work of growing up and learning how to love like an adult. And you can't fix that. You can't love that away. You can't be patient enough, forgiving enough, or understanding enough to heal someone who refuses to acknowledge they're wounded. You can only refuse to participate in your own diminishment, so let them disappear. Let them have their silence. Let them sit alone in the absence they created. And you get to choose yourself. You get to say, I will not be punished for caring. I will not be gaslit into believing that my needs for basic respect and communication are too much. I will not shrink myself down to fit comfortably inside someone else's emotional unavailability. That's not bitterness, that's boundary setting, that's self-preservation. That's you finally understanding that your worth isn't up for negotiation, that your value doesn't increase or decrease based on whether someone emotionally stunted decides to acknowledge it. And when you stop chasing people who punish you with silence, something fundamental shifts in your life. You stop attracting them. You stop tolerating them. You stop mistaking their dysfunction for depth, their silence for mystery, their cruelty for passion. Because you finally learned the hardest, most liberating lesson, the people who truly deserve you will never make you beg for their presence. So if someone disappeared on you, if they left you hanging, guessing, wondering, analyzing every word you said and every move you made, this is your permission to stop. Stop reaching out, stop explaining yourself, stop giving them the power to define your worth through their absence. Stop waiting for closure that will never come because they're too cowardly to give it. Their silence isn't a reflection of your value, it's a reflection of their character. It's a reflection of their cowardice, their immaturity, their inability to show up like an adult. It's a reflection of everything they lack, not everything you are. And you? You were never the problem. You were just loving someone in a language they were incapable of speaking. You were offering honesty to someone who deals in games. You were being vulnerable with someone who sees vulnerability as weakness to exploit. You were in the wrong room. But now you know better. Now it's time to leave. Close the door, lock it, and walk toward people who know that silence isn't a weapon. It's the absence of everything a real relationship needs. You're not walking away from love. You're walking away from someone who never learned how to give it. And that's not your loss. That's your liberation.